Okay, and every time we come back from a break, there is open frame. Open frame is question time, any questions that are hypnosis related. So this is our first open frame of the day. Questions? Yes, Della.
It's just confusing because so do you just say anxiety?
Whatever they choose.
And let go.
You don't have to, you can say whatever you want, provided you use that word anxiety.
Yeah,
some people say, let it go, let the anxiety go. And again, the one on the top of the head, I recommend you do your hand flat. You're more liable to hit it than trying to nail that spot exactly. But yeah, just use...
Because we were saying even though you have...
Oh, you don't need any of that. No, don't need any of it. Simplify, right?
So just anxiety.
Yeah, or you can say, let the anxiety go. I'm releasing this anxiety. I'm sick of this anxiety. As long as they're using that...
Intention of some kind.
Yes, the intention is everything with this. And you'll discover when we do the regression work, intention is the heart of regression work. If you have the proper intention as a therapist, as a hypnotist, your work will be far, far stronger. Yes, Elliot.
Yeah. So let's say somebody comes into your office, what's this tapping stuff? Or they don't know, but you're trying to explain it to them. What's your kind of pre-talk?
Good question. I'll say, over the last few years, there have been some interesting discoveries that have tied thousands years old Chinese medicine with Western medicine. One of these discoveries, the World Health Organization, verifies that acupuncture actually works for something like 40 or 50 conditions. They don't understand the theory behind it, the meridians and so on in Chinese medicine, but more discoveries have been made that even tapping on these points can change your emotional state. So I'm undergirding it with the World Health Organization and say that many, many psychiatrists worldwide are using this and teaching this because it works. And then I'll say, it can sound crazy, you don't have to believe in it, it's just mechanical. So, and the first thing I'll do is prove it by getting rid of their disbelief about it or their doubt. Do you disbelieve it'll work or do you just doubt it'll work? Well, I doubt, okay, so say I doubt that it'll work, I doubt that, bang, that's it. In fact, you'll sometimes, and maybe we need to, thank you Elliot, you brought up something interesting. We need to discuss the apex problem, which all therapists will run into eventually. Willem Lammers, the Swiss psychologist I told you about, taught us about the apex problem. And it's a very interesting thing. It happens more with the tapping than anything else I've found. And the idea is, you can fix a problem so well, so thoroughly, that they deny they had a problem when they came in, which is not a good thing when they are paying you. And I worked with a woman from Parkdale here in Toronto who was a court reporter, didn't have a lot of money, lived alone, and had her cat, and her cat was her best friend. And rightly so, being an allurophile of some note myself. So anyway, she came in, and the sad thing was with her cat, it had gotten really ill, and it was elderly, and she could not afford to go to the vet and have this poor animal euthanized, which was necessary because it was suffering. So she smothered her cat herself. She used a pillow, held the cat down, smothered it, and here's how it presented when she came into my office. I murdered my best friend. Can you imagine how horrible and disempowering that is? Going right to the heart of your value, your murderer of your best friend. And so she's 10 on the scale, crying and crying and crying. And I worked with her and we dealt with this entirely with the tapping, and I throw in some embedded commands and sneak the hypnosis in for people who are nervous about that. End of the session. I'm doing her paperwork. This is right on Queen Street here in Toronto, doing the paperwork. And she says, well, I think this whole thing is a ripoff. And I, what? It's a true story. She said, I think this is a ripoff. I don't think I needed to come and see you, and I think this whole tapping thing is just some sort of scam. This is the freaking apex problem. I've never seen it. Here it is. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I don't think I even need to come in. You tried to convince me with all the tapping voodoo stuff that I had some kind of problem, and people like you should be reported. Now it's going into like a lawsuit against me. So I said, think. I looked, the desk was covered with Kleenex. And I said, where did all these Kleenex come from? And she went, oh, I was crying. I said, yeah, a lot. And she went, oh, and then it all came back. So be aware, sometimes you'll run into the apex problem. Not very often, but be ready to deal with it if it happens. It's startling. Richard?
How can you pre-frame so that doesn't happen? That's less likely.
If you do a good intake and your forms say what the problem is and all this stuff, then you can say, but this is what you came in for, remember? You've got to bring the memory back. I don't know if they actually get an amnestic loop where they can't get it, and they just need to have it straightened out. Nancy?
I did it with my father, who was in the hospital after an open heart surgery, and he had just like an upset stomach maybe from some of the drugs they were giving him or something, I don't know. But I convinced him to do the EFT, and his stomach was feeling better. And then I, suggested we do it again the next day or something, and he said, "No, I don't want to do that. That's stupid stuff, And I said, "But it helps your stomach." And he said, "No, it didn't. It would have gotten better anyway."
Oh, see, it would have gotten better anyway. Yeah. People do all sorts of backflips to avoid reality. It's human nature, right? One thing I will mention is what I call Gary Craig's error, the Craig mistake. Gary Craig, who turned Roger Callahan's thought field therapy into EFT and did a great job with it. He's an NLP master practitioner, whatever. He said top the 13 meridians and brought in the even though I have, the rolling eyes, all stuff. Great work. I take nothing away from him. But he makes one logical mistake, which the scientists in the group will recognize immediately. He said the reason, based on the Chinese medicine roots, the reason these things work is because there's an energetic component to the emotional problem, which I agree with. There's a blockage in a meridian, whatever. If we're freeing this energetic, subtle energy disturbance, whatever that is, he's saying that's why it works. It clears emotions because of that. Now, the reason it works on physical things too, he does not draw the logical conclusion. They also are energetic disturbances that need to be cleared. Instead, he said the reason it works on physical things is because they have an emotional component. It doesn't follow logically. This works because of A, therefore this works because of, it works because of some sort of subtle energy field. And you can determine this very easily. If you don't use the points, it won't work. And if you're in an area of energetic disturbance, it won't work. But just move somewhere else, have a drink of water, and it should work fine. Anything else for open frame? All right, yes?
So I have a friend who...
Is it you?
No.
I have a friend, he's a hypnotist.
She has energetic stuff, like she'll go into a room and the clock will stop, or so she has stuff like that going on. So would it work on somebody like
You'll never know until you do it. Yeah. But report back to me. I'd be very interested to find out. Anything else for open frame? Okay, good.